What is up, people of YouTube? I'm your host, Vernon. This is the Red River. Let's fish that. Alright, ladies and gents, we YouTubers tend to have a balancing act where we try to give you information, but also try and make the videos fun and engaging. Having lots of action is a great way to entertain, but that does, however, mean that sometimes you guys don't see the bad days. Lots of fishermen go out fishing, don't catch anything, and they don't upload videos about that. They only upload the good days. Now, for me, I go out fishing once or twice a week, and I try and make a video. If we catch fish, we catch fish. If we don't, we don't. Oftentimes, you will see videos of people catching fish out there, and you expect that when you go out there, you're also going to catch fish. You do the same things, and you get skunked. Now, that can leave a bad taste in one's mouth if you're expecting great fishing, but not getting any action. But we need to remember, a lot of these people have fished for a pretty long time. They know exactly where the honey holes are, or what time of year, what fish start acting in certain ways. So it is very important for people starting fishing, or just someone that wants to get into fishing, to not always try and go for the biggest fish immediately, but try and ease your way into fishing. Now, thinking of going fishing as a child, that is a great way to try and emulate. When you're a small kid and you go fishing, you tend to use a little bobber, a little worm, and you see what you can catch. And from that you progress, start using lures and different baits, and different techniques, and get on bigger fish. Now, with that in mind, I want to start out today thinking like a child, going for a little bobber and a worm, get on smaller fish, and upscale from there. So if you're new to fishing, just want to catch some fish, follow along and I'll show you what I'm going to do to try and find some basic fish. Alright, so let's talk about the setup that I'm going to be using out there today. Now, to be clear, you can pretty much use any rod and reel, whether it be a little kiddie one or any rod or reel combo that you buy. You can use it for this type of fishing. Just don't go for some 40-pound test line. Go for some light line, because we're going to be throwing some bobbers that's light. So pretty much the rod and reel, use whatever you have. Now, on my little setup, I have a little barrel swivel and a bobber, little split shot, and lastly the hook. Now, you can use any sort of bobber. I'll show a few different bobbers. The little split shot, that is not always needed, but because we're fishing the Red River, while it is flowing rather well at the moment, I'm going to use a little split shot just to get our baits down towards the fish rather than having it float upwards. Just adding a little piece of split shot, and I'm not cramping it down all the way, so we can move it around up and down the line. And then the little hook I have on here, of course it has to be barbless, but you don't have to close these little hooks at the bottom. This is just a normal fisherman's hook. Any starter pack you buy, you will get some hooks like this. These are bait hooks. That's why they have these little hooks to grab onto your bait. And that's simply what I'm going to use out there. I'm going to put on some bait, have it suspended a little bit lower with our bobber. I'm going to watch the bobber go down and set the hook. And over here I have a selection of bobbers. These are the normal bobbers you get in all the little sets. But you can use any type of bobber, little foam ones. Some of these foam ones have little lead weights to help you get some casting distance. I'm using a little clear plastic one like this. You actually fill this with water and that is your weight for casting. And I like using a clear one because these highly colored things, they're great for you as a person to see, but the fish can also see them, and sometimes a little moving thing will spook the fish. That is why I opted to go for a little clear one. And there we are. Little Goldeye landed. Got him hooked nice in the corner of the mouth. Should be an easy release. Let's get him back to the water. Off he goes. That's our first little fish landed. I've had a few take down the little bobber, but I couldn't get quick enough hook set on them. But that one we finally landed. So very simple, not going out too deep, staying not in the main current, but in the slower moving current, just letting it float down, waiting for the bobber to go down. That fish left us our little worm. It is a bit battered and bruised, but just re-rigging it, and we can get it back out there again. There we go. Another little Goldeye landed. Let's get him back to the water. And off he goes. Haven't had any hits next to the little plants and reeds anymore for the last hour or so. So I thought I want to make my way closer to the Crouchaine Bridge here, thinking that these slack waters, that would be a great place for the fish to rather hide than be out in the main current. So I'm going to make a few casts here. Let's see if we get some more. I don't know if you guys can see my little bobber all the way out there. This is not a highly visible bobber. He just popped off. Just want to check the baits before getting it out there. And we have a fish on. Bit of a nicer sized one. But this fish is bleeding quite a lot. He took that very deep. That's why you should always have some pliers with you. Alright, we got the hook out. He was hooked deep, but the hook popped out into the front of his mouth. So that's why he's bleeding a bit, but he'll be fine. Let's get him back to the water. And off he goes. Good, strong kick, and he's off. Now, if you release a fish like that, you put him in the water and he doesn't swim off, he goes belly up. That means that fish is probably not going to make it, and then you need to keep them. Goldeye work pretty good as bait, especially if you want to try targeting some bigger channel catfish. Now, there's not much of my little night crawler left here. But maybe something will go for that small little piece. Gonna give it one more try. If I don't get anything on that, let's put on some new worms. Before I can continue fishing, I have a bit of a crow's nest I first need to sort out. Bring you guys back once we got that sorted. Now I am also experimenting with what size bait you should put on. Do you put on the entire worm? With that I find they just rip the worm to shreds. So what I'm doing is I'm putting on half a night crawler. And you want to have your hook point exposed. So don't just bunch up the night crawler, the entire hook full. You need to have the hook point exposed so you can hook the fish. Just managed to lose one again. It is a very fine line. When having your little bobber out there, you need enough line out. You don't want too much line out, especially when using braid, because water current can actually drag your little bobber around. But if you have too much line out and you try to set the hook, then you won't get the fish as well. So it's a balancing act, finding the right amount of line out there and having the right amount of hook setting potential. Just lost another one. I'm getting more hits, so I think I need to check my baits. This time we got him hooked. Our little barbless hook came out. But that's okay, we got the fish landed. You can see where he was hooked, nice in the corner of the jaw there. Let's get him back to the water. And off he goes. Another little lovely goldeye landed. Wanted to get a nice shot of him releasing, but I dropped him and he swam off. So all good. This one's hooked nice in the bottom of the jaw. Off he goes. Alright, ladies and gents, the idea with this video was to say, learn to walk before you run. Now I do catch quite a lot of fish, but I had to learn how and where to find these fish out there. And that's the important thing we anglers need to remember. We need to learn everything about the fish, the behavior, where they are, what they eat, what they want. And I suggest starting small, whether it be rock bass or goldeye in this case, or bluegill, whatever the small fish in your area is, start with that. Once you get the hang of catching these fish or some bait fish, you can always move on to the next species and try and progress and find better and bigger fish. Now I know some people will say, but Vernon, these are just goldeye, it's not that difficult. But it is actually that difficult. If you're not used to catching these fish, if you haven't grown up in this area and know these fish, it can be difficult to actually find them. It's not just casting out some baits out there and you will find them. There are certain places in the river where these fish like to be. It's learning and discovering those spots that will help you consistently get on fish. Alright, but I do hope this little back to basics video does help someone out there at least. Please do give me a little thumbs up for getting some fish. Feel free to ask any questions down below in the comments. And if you're new to my channel, consider hitting the subscribe button, joining my community. I do weekly videos. Alright, but thank you for following along. And like always, I'll see you next time.